You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Hail cheaters, welcome to the Always Cheating Podcast. 3 episodes to go, Brandon. My name is Josh. I'm here with Mr. B. How are you, Brandon?
Cool. Yeah, also known as Mr. Beast. Yeah, I've got more than 25 million followers on social media. Thank you for joining my
with James Patterson. I'm surprised how much cultural traction that's got. I've had multiple corners of my life have come through with this.
Same.
Mr.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm relieved. Let's just say that much.
Yeah. You're relieved to have a great new book to read, right? That's what you're. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm also relieved, dude, that Game Week 37. So Game Week 36.
Yep.
Ish. I'm trying to sort of categorize all these run-in game weeks, and it's I'm trying to apply less weight to each coming game week, and it doesn't feel that way. It somehow feels like game week 37 is somehow going to carry more weight than game week 36. I can't escape the end of the season.
Wait, why do you feel this way? What?
Well, why I feel this way is the narrative is the fantasy narrative as it is feels like it's sort of teeter-tottering in a way. And there's something about wanting closure to this season. This Game Week 36 didn't grant closure. I don't think Game Week 37 is going to grant closure either. And it's something about the return of Holland and the captaincy is not really just where is the big boom to close the season? And that's kind of what I'm waiting for.
It was an interesting week. Yeah, I think, no double game weeks in the season. First time, I suppose, ever, right? I mean, obviously they changed the way that they structure the FA Cup, and that's made a huge difference. It leads to a very funky schedule for 37, by the way. You've got 2 matches on Friday. You have matches, I think, that stretch all the way through next Tuesday, or maybe Wednesday. Next Tuesday, right? Because and even the FA Cup is, Saturday afternoon before the season ends. I think that's a fairly recent change as well. I feel like they used to have the FA Cup after the season was over. Do you remember the FA? I thought the FA Cup used to be the weekend.
All this stuff used to happen.
I know.
The Europa League.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The Europa League's next week. I don't know. Whatever.
But they can't because the FIFA Club World Cup is going to start in a couple of weeks from now, and so you got to get all this whatever detritus out of the way.
It's hilarious. We've been snarking on the Club World Cup ever since it was announced, and then you and I just got tickets. To go see it. So whatever.
Yeah, if you're in Miami, check out the Cheaters. We're going to be on Miami for the Bayern Munich Boca Juniors.
Yeah, exactly. It's the equivalent of the that Trump tweet about Diet Coke, where he's like, whatever, I'll still drink that crap. It's there's still teams coming. All right, fine.
You're too old, fat man.
Yeah, exactly. So, game week 36 in the books. I mean, it was an interesting week because I actually felt like I had a pretty good week. And then I looked at my score and it doesn't seem that high. Like, I feel like it should be like, I got a return from my captain. I guess my front line killed me this week. I think that was really the biggest problem. I got 1 point from Marmouche, 0 points from Cunha, and 2 points from Isak. So a total of 3 points. My bench boost. I did bench boost this week. It was enough for me to win our head to head, or not our head to head, but our private mini league quarterfinals. My match there, which is like the only thing, as the season wears on, as listeners, who are in multiple leagues will know, it's you start casting about for anything that still has like
where is there still money on the table?
It doesn't have to be money, right? But just like literally like where can I like find something to like motivate me here. And so I was able to win that and get into the semifinals there. So that was something, but rough, O'Brien was a late scratch for Everton. And then Michaelenko, who I was like 50-50 on, scored. And so that was like, I mean, this is 2 weeks ago. I didn't bring O'Brien in this week.
Right. You were on bench boost this week and you brought in Milenkovic for Nottingham Forest, which was to me the craziest / most predictable result of the weekend.
The 2-2.
You would think Forest have everything to play for a Champions League fixture. Yeah. They're home and they leave 2 goals to the worst team in the division.
Yeah. So I have been saying for a few weeks now that like, the bus has come to a stop or whatever with them. And you've been, I think it's accurate to say you've been in denial about what's been going on at Forest.
I guess I'm trying to apply logic to the Forest situation in that what they have excelled at so much this season is defensive stability. And you would think when the going gets tough, this is what they're going to lean on.
Right.
And I have not given them enough credit for just like, there's nothing left. Forest, like there's nothing left there.
Nothing left in the tank. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they get the Wood goal to go up 2-1,
which was a miracle goal, by the way. That was like a Notre Dame football style Hail Mary pass from Gibbs White.
And he's been and Wood has been struggling a lot. He was even struggling in this match, and so it was a big and you think, all right, there you go. But ultimately, I mean, honestly, Leicester could have won that game. I mean, they had a couple of big chances.
Easily,
and so they did get a point. They still have a little bit of a shot, although unfortunately for them, Aston Villa are sneaking in now. And I would say between Chelsea, Villa, and Forest, I think Villa would actually be the team I favor now to
do seem like the least likely. And Forest, I have the great advantage of their last 2 matches. They play Spurs and then Manchester United, the 2 teams that are going for the $1 billion basket in the Europa League final.
Yeah, that's exactly. Insanely high stakes, comically high stakes. It's like literally you get to play in the Champions League and you get to sign 70 million pound strikers.
You had the worst season in club history. Here's your reward.
Yeah, backdoor. I mean, listen, that's why these clubs have to go for these competitions, because you never know how it's all going to pan out. But there is a lot. I had it later on, but I guess I'll just drop it in real quick, which is that there are a lot of like kind of schedule things to keep an eye on this week, which is the Europa League final is May 21st, which is I guess that's 3 days. A week and 3 days from now. So that will certainly have an impact, I would think, on game week 37 and possibly even game week 38 for Man United and Spurs, right? If that ends up being a 120-minute match or something like that, they might. And as we've established, they have nothing to play for in 37 or 38. I think we have never. I know people get sick of
nothing in 36 as far as evidence goes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I mean, right, but both squads losing at home, like it was. But I think as far as on the beach stuff goes, right, this idea that like teams are just checked out. I can't remember ever seeing this level of like on the beachness by game week 36, right? Like usually maybe 38, you see this kind of wildness, but it feels like everything's settled. It's like 3 teams have something to play for right now. It's like Chelsea, Villa, and and Forest, right? And that's kind of it. I mean, and the other clubs are just kind of trying to stay healthy. Even that Arsenal Liverpool match was kind of weird today. I don't know. I mean, they were going for it, but Arteta needs a break. This guy needs like 3 months off this summer.
It's true. He does not need to chill for sure.
He's got to chill out. Yeah, exactly.
I'll push back a little bit on that narrative because as we're talking about Spurs and Manchester United in the Europa League final and how basically if you're a Premier League team and you get into that competition, you get a free pass into the Champions League.
Yep.
Brentford, Brighton, Bournemouth, all just have that door open. And I think that these are teams that I'm kind of interested in the next 2 game weeks.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It's just like, it's hard to know. Like Bournemouth seem like they're kind of like Forest where they've run out of gas. Brentford. I mean, I think
they're not going to stop though. So this is kind of the fantasy gambit of there's nothing there, blah blah blah, and yet, I don't know. Maybe it's the optimistic view of the Premier League of this is the league where anything can happen. I will cop to I switched off of the just interminable Liverpool Arsenal match to watch Barcelona, Real Madrid, the Clasico, and
7 goals in the first half.
It was a little bit like watching Major League Soccer, and it was a kind of a gut check of like, well, no league is doing great in terms of like, this is where this is where they're writing the new rules of modern football. No,
right.
Everyone's just kind of like just going nuts. We're just not in a great era of football, I would argue, at this moment.
Wow. I don't know if I'd go that far. I mean, I have really enjoyed the Champions League this year. As I've said multiple times in this pod, this is not a new take for me. I think they kind of fixed it. I think this, and I realized it's because I've realized I've become a Champions League casual, right? And so the way that they fixed it is that because of this like kind of fluky, anybody can play anybody at any time structure, it basically means there's always one good game on every single day, and that's kind of enough for me now as a Champions League casual. I mean, usually 3:00 in the afternoon on a Tuesday or Wednesday, it's very hard on the East Coast you can't. It's not even a lunch break, right? There's just nothing you can do, for those matches. So. Having like one thing to pay attention to has really worked. And I think the elimination games have been bad. But yeah, I agree. I mean, it's kind of the end of an era. Like KDB is leaving. This Liverpool squad Trent's leaving, which is honestly as big a deal as KDB, really, right? I mean,
I will admit when this was a couple of weeks ago now when Jamie Vardy announced that he would be leaving Leicester City, I had like a true physical. We're not talking about like mental, emotional, like
sure.
a physical reaction to that. And
what did you do? Like you jerked backwards or like what did you
a little bit of like a tweak in the spine, like, oh, ah. No, there are threads that are coming to an end in the Premier League story this season. I guess that's kind of an interesting transition into big news that So if anyone's paying attention to the non-existent Always Cheating social media at this point, or our lovely Patreon supporters, we've kind of teased this episode as a moment in which we're going to make some news as far as the Always Cheating podcast is concerned.
Yeah, we're moving to Threads exclusively. That's where
Hail
you'll find us
Cheaters _FPL.
We just really want our content to be in a non-algorithmic, totally random format.
Super important.
Stumble across it. Mm-hmm. No, we are going. I was going to say hiatus, but I think we're not really seeing it that way. I think we realistically. Who knows? I mean, if it comes back in the future, it'll be in some new form. But the Always Cheating podcast is. I'm actually not getting choked up. I was literally choking on my seltzer here.
That's
Believe
incredible.
Me. You can look at my eyes. I'm fine.
We're announcing that the Always Cheating podcast is ending at the end of this season.
I couldn't choke it out there for a second. I was caught on my own words.
And it's sort of bittersweet. We talked about at the start of this season of the celebration of this is the 10th season. If anyone had been keeping score, we have done this podcast. We've been creating weekly fantasy Premier League content for 10 years. And there are a lot of factors into keeping the pod going, as well as there are a lot of factors into ending the pod.
Yeah.
And just, I feel like I am of mixed emotions in terms of
Brandon has been ready to quit for about 3 years, and I think our friendship has kept it intact for a couple bonus years. I think we've done. How many episodes of the main feed have we done? Like 400?
Well, I think we're like this would be episode 488, but according to certain algorithms, it's like 492 or 3 or something like that.
It's annoying that we didn't get to 500, but if you include
more than 100 Patreon podcasts,
well more than 100. I mean, I'd probably 250 or so. So, So, I mean, roughly 700. Let's just round up generously and say 750 podcasts. When you think about those being 2 nights a week, and it's not like a it's not like a fantasy NFL season or even baseball for that matter, where you're off for like 5 or 6 months. It's basically like honestly for us, it's effectively like, it's been like a 10.5 month season, right? Because the game launches in July. And I always want to be kind of ready to go as soon as like the minute the game launches. And then the season ends at the end of May, right? So you basically have 6 or 7 weeks where we're not creating pods twice a week, and I think that's really what it is. It's honestly just the time more than anything. And I think part of it too is, and I'm sorry for anybody who tuned in just to hear like actual Game Week 37 strategy content. We will get to that. I have actual fantasy notes here and things to talk about, but but yeah, I think the social media stuff was definitely a factor. I think when Elon Musk ruined Twitter, it had what ended up being a pretty profound effect on my relationship with fantasy, because that was where I really did most of my kind of engagement and talking with people. And when I grew to hate even logging on to Twitter, right, when it just became so irritating to me to even be on that site, it really made it harder for me to stay engaged with the game, I think, in some ways, and so I think that for me was the big moment. What was it for you? Because I know you've been here like a little bit longer than I have in terms of like, I'm ready to hang it up.
Well, I think this to me is the crux of, and I wonder how many people who just consume fantasy content feel this, is I personally feel like I have said everything that I have to say about Fantasy Premier League.
Yeah.
And that's like, I still love the game and I will be playing FPL until, for the rest of my life.
If Sugar Lips can play it well into his 80s, then you can definitely do the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out Trigger Lips who got us our start.
That's true.
But there was, a few years ago, it sort of dawned on me of sort of like, there is it wasn't just going through the motions, but it was in terms of what we do on Always Cheating, I feel like, to me, I hope that what Always Cheating has done.
You don't want to sound too puffed up here, but just say it.
Hey, listen, I need to frame the argument to best suit me.
Yeah.
What I feel like the goal has been is to frame a community for fantasy. And we have always tried to make and we've kind of had to, because it's been a competitive marketplace, make the voice of Always Cheating to be a little bit more community oriented, a bit more sort of like, do you play the game and perhaps not necessarily in a particular way, but you're just looking for a place to come sort of like have a conversation about it. At some point, I only wanted to listen to the conversation. I didn't actively want to drive the conversation. And that happened, I think, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when it did feel like the game sort of turned a corner in that we can, through algorithms, et cetera, we can solve this game. What do you have to add to the conversation beyond that?
I think that's true. I think it used to be a little, I mean, the problem with, this is the problem with technology think in general, I don't want to sound like some kind of Luddite here. I mean, I like tech quite a lot, and we're both podcasting from new MacBooks here. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that we're like some, that we hate tech or whatever, but I don't know where I'm going with this, but but basically, yeah, there was a feeling at some point there was like, oh, like in a certain kind of way, like the game kind of got solved, right? I mean, it's like you can't solve it in a sense, but like you can, you can create models that are about as effective, like about as effective at kind of predictiveness as you can kind of go down that road. And then it was like, are you going to embrace this or are you going to ignore it? And it was like, I was kind of using them, but it was like, I kind of hated that I was using them. And it became this, it was like this kind of, it felt like there was like this elephant in the room now. It was like, if you and I were talking about players that we liked or didn't like, there was this feeling like, oh, should we like, I guess we should be adding like advanced stats into this conversation to like give us more credibility or something. You know what I mean? It was like, and I don't think anyone was asking for that, but I was just sort of feeling it in the back of my head, right? It was like, it became less fun to just have an opinion on something. Cause it was like, because someone would kind of be like, you get well actually in the comments,
sure.
Right? And at some point they got a little.
There's that in terms of you have to be the expert. And I don't think I ever felt like I was the expert in the room. There did come a point where I've just said everything I personally have to say about FPL.
Yeah.
It's done. It's all out there.
Yeah.
In terms of my own strategy, in terms of how I view the game, probably at this point, not going to change. I've said it. It's done. It's out there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. And I think, and I think it's sort of like, I think the feeling for me, what I have like muddled through longer, probably, but like, but there's also a feeling like if you're not growing, it's like, it kind of feels a little bit like it's not worth doing, I think it was like when it's not, I think it just happens like, this happens with bands after 10 years, right? It's like, you sort of like, it's hard to break through a 10 or 15 year window of making anything, right? Because at some point it's kind of like it's a musically, right? You've sort of 10 years of albums, and it's kind of hard to, unless you're like Tom
I don't want to
Waits,
make the same
right?
album again.
Yeah, but it's hard to be the Tom Waits of FPL, right? It's like, constantly, we haven't added any marimbas to any of the stuff that we're doing. I think that's really,
if there are any producers for hire that can change our sound without us having to lift a finger, that sounds great.
Just the entire pod, just every episode, there's just a like a Rain Dogs like marimba just playing through everything. It'd be amazing. But
I feel way down in a hole sometimes playing FPL. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I don't know. Yeah, I kind of hear you about like say everything you need to say, and I think I think it was just time to like kind of see what else is out there. There's a book that came out a couple of years ago by Annie Duke, former poker player, called Quit. And part of the idea here is that you should probably like. You should be like before you realize you should quit. You should have probably already quit, right? It's like there's like sort of when you get to the point where like maybe I should quit. It's like you probably should have done it like 6 months earlier. It's like there's a sort of like it's like kind of and sometimes you don't need to have something new waiting for you when you quit. It's the act of not doing something that kind of frees up your brain. And I think it's been 2 nights a week for 40 weeks for 10 years, right? I mean, that's,
imagine this on a practical level, like negotiating a household where you're like every Thursday and Sunday night, you're like, cool, great idea for a plan.
Yeah, it's literally how I spent my 30s was just doing this, and so with a kid, but I mean, I know a lot of people who podcasts have kids too. And it's, so like, it's fine. Like, but I think it's just time for us to like, I don't want to say pass the torch because there are people who are out there doing great stuff.
They took it from us.
They took it from us. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I don't see any issue with that because we've always had plenty of people who love the podcast for what it is. Right. Yeah. And I don't think either of us were super enthusiastic about creating a little YouTube empire, right? That was, I don't think for either of us.
We didn't have the skills to do it.
We didn't have the skills to, or the desire, right? I mean, sometimes you can acquire the skills if you have the desire,
sure,
right?
That's fair.
Yeah.
We could have done it.
Yeah.
But we chose not to.
We could have been a contender, So, so anyway, so that's where we are. So we're still going to do, of course, we have 2 more episodes after this one. We have our Game Week 38 preview, and then we'll do an end of season wrap up. And that'll be fun because Brendan will be in New York, and so we can do that last one together. But we'll still plan
finish
to
the season with us and just ride into the sunset with us. So, I'm imagining you and me on horseback. We got our saddlebags full of like pyrite. That we got from the FPL site, and then as the camera goes wide, it's like all of our followers just on their horses behind us, riding over the horizon.
And maybe,
join us.
And maybe one or both of us will come back in some other form in the future, right? I mean, Mark basically Southern set the template for this, right? He left Fantasy Football Scout, did his own thing, and then
he's like a Marvel character at this point. They kill him in every movie, and he comes back.
Exactly. And then he came back and did Black Box, which was real triumph too. Exactly. So, and he's stepping away this summer as well. So, maybe it's a period of transition for a lot of the old guard podcasts, and that's where we are. We're the old guard, and so let's
Sure, and they're making a sequel of the Old Guard movies starring Charlize Theron. It's all Kismet. Old Guard 2 coming to Netflix.
2, it's all cool and it's all Kismet. Yeah, exactly. All right, well, so more to come on that, I guess, if there's anything else to say over the next couple of weeks. But I was going to say that 2 other quick notes. One is our Discord for Patreon supporters. Obviously that'll just stay active. There's really nothing that we have to kind of do on that front. I guess we have to make sure we turn off the trigger we'll have to figure the Patreon part of it
Nothing
out.
Will give me more pleasure than seeing our Patreon Discord community continue to thrive, even though the podcast is not active.
Yes.
And yes, if you are currently a supporter of the podcast on Patreon, we're obviously turning that off when we stop podcasting. But we'll leave the Discord open, and let's just thrive. Let's just do our thing as we want.
Exactly. So and all the mini leagues can still, that we have through there can still go. And it's not too late to just join the Discord as well. Then maybe we'll figure out a way to people join if they. Right now, you have to become a Patreon.
I think we make the Patreon sort of dormant, but you can always become a follower / free member of the Patreon, and then you just have entree to all that.
That's
stuff.
true. Yeah, maybe we can just make everything free, or I don't know. We don't do this on the pod, but we'll figure that part out. But so the Discord will stay intact. We are planning to go to the World Cup next year, and so that's really exciting. We're going to we'll be in Seattle for the the U.S. men's game, which is really exciting. And then
I'm going to be throwing a fish at the Pike Place Market.
Yeah, it's exactly this inaugural fish throw. And then in future years as well. I mean, we're a couple middle-aged guys with normal jobs, we'll be fine. We'll be able to take our little UK trip still, and hopefully we can see some listeners, many of whom just become our friends at this point, right after 10 years of doing this podcast, talking to
White
people.
Lotus, South London, here we come.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll still see everybody. Social media, I don't know. Maybe I'll hate it less now that I'm not required to do pod content. I don't know. All right. Well, let's move on, Brandon, for now. And game week 36, I think we talked a little bit about the beachiness already. You pushed back a little bit, but I think in general, maybe it's honestly just a feeling that I have that I'm just like, God, what's the match I'm supposed to watch that has any kind of stakes?
Are you on the beach?
Now? Yeah, maybe I'm on the beach. Maybe that's what it is more than anything. It's just kind of a weird. I mean, and Bomo, we both captained him. Continues to have a high floor. Kevin Schad, now with 4 goals in 3 matches. I feel like
he's on a heater. My God,
kind of stole his thunder again.
Brentford was it the most disappointing match? I guess Manchester City says hold my beer where that's concerned, because at least Mbomo, captain, did deliver some attacking return. But Vissa on a 1-pointer, and I know a lot of people brought Vissa in this week, is a massive disappointment. And Shada is a bit of a spoil sport there. And the question will be, is anyone going to have the guts to try to finish the season with Shada? But to me, I think the narrative that supersedes that is indeed Manchester City. And Haaland comes in and says, I'm back, and I'm not going to make things any better for Manchester City or fantasy managers.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to ruin some fantasy managers' game weeks by getting them to take a -4. Marmoush, I think the De Bruyne just it was very flat for Manchester City. Yep. What we did get from them was naturally a clean sheet that they again got by the skin of their teeth. And now the question we have to answer, Josh, is we've got 2 more game weeks to play. Is Haaland, for those that didn't take the bait in game week 36, an active chip? And is Marmoush basically poison if you still have him?
I don't really love the idea of having Haaland late on. I mean, it's not even a fixture thing so much as just like a vibes. I don't know. It's like I don't know. I mean, it's kind of interesting though, because this last match, you talked about a little bit last week, the final home match of the season. The problem is they kind of already have a big moment coming up, right? Because they have the FA Cup final in a couple of days. So obviously that's not a home match. It's not KDB's match. And unfortunately, part of the problem here too is that we aren't going to know what the squad looks like for the FA Cup final before the deadline for this week, right? Because of the Friday matches. So I think that makes it really hard to bring in KDB. It makes it hard to bring in Haaland, just in general, right? Because I actually was kind of considering KDB for 37, just as a kind of like have him for the farewell match, sort of move, but. I don't know what happens if he gets the only way I could do it would be a -4. And what happens if he plays 120 minutes in the FA Cup final or he gets injured late or something like that? It's just, I just hate transferring a player before they have a match to play.
Yeah.
A non-Premier League match.
I totally agree. I hate it. I hate everything around. I hate it. I hate everything around City right now because there is opportunity. If there was this feeling of, well, they're flat, there's nothing there. The fixtures are good. There is opportunity there. And weirdly, as horrible as their defense has been this season, is really like Ruben Diaz and Guardiola is the only route into points for this team. It's just, I know. It feels so terrible. I'm very curious about the formation, not the formation, but so much the lineup is Pep just really is interested in never starting the same wing players ever. And McAtee should be playing for, like Bumsgard United in like the National League or something like that. It's not, this is not it for him. Yeah. And like Marmoush, can we just play Marmoush and Haaland together? He's done it before. The problem is I expect that to happen in game week 37.
Well, I expect that to happen in the FA Cup final, and then I think there's a chance we see Marmoush benched again for 37. Right? I think that's the irritating part of this. I mean, Marmoush has just been a hugely frustrating fantasy player in general. I think there's a real temptation to just drop Marmoush and bring in Ollie Watkins. Right?
For sure. Yeah. I would do it if I could. Yeah. I don't have the cash to do a straight swap. Yeah. Right now, it's like Isak equally. I mean, at least Isak is nailed. You know he's going to play. You know what he's going to do, how he's going to play, and he's a good player. But
he's going to score. He's going to score at the Emirates.
Maybe he's been so anemic fantasy wise. Even when he does score, it's like the bonus is slow to come. So Isak is. I would much rather have Isak over Marmoush. But I cannot afford to go Watkins. It's sort of like as you look at 37 and 38, I agree with you that Watkins seems to offer something extra. And if you can afford to do Marmoush to Watkins, do it immediately.
Yeah. I think that's a smart move. I think there's really nothing going on. I don't think there's anything for the next handful of days as well. So it's a fairly safe move to make. And Watkins is certainly locked. You don't have to wait for a team. Some
sort of local pig farmers parade that Watkins has to march in for.
Yeah. Well, and also, God, he's captain worthy. For this weekend too. I mean, I think that Spurs team. I mean, they have that FA Cup. Or, I mean, not the FA Cup, the Europa League final. Early the following week, and there's no reason for that.
I don't care. The Spurs can start their first 11, and they'll still get.
That's
destroyed.
True. That is a good point. Yeah, and Villa are the one team with something to play for right now.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, and maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today? There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm finally learning French after taking classes in high school and thrilled to finish what I'd started years ago. And my favorite part about Babbel is that it's dialogue-based. It helps me to actually practice conversations, and the speech recognition ensures I'm saying words correct them all. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/BlueWire. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/BlueWire. Spelled BABBEL.com/BlueWire. Babbel.com/BlueWire. Rules and restrictions may apply.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
NetCredit is here to say yes to a personal loan or line of credit when other lenders say no. Apply in minutes and get a decision as soon as the same day. If approved, applications are typically funded the next business day or sooner. Loans offered by NetCredit or lending partner banks and serviced by NetCredit. Application subject to review and approval. Learn more at netcredit.com/partner. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
Got a 7 a.m. meeting on a Monday? Boo! Expensing breakfast because it's in policy. Yay! Wasting all afternoon submitting an expense report for that breakfast. Boo! If your company used Ramp, you could submit expenses with just a text.
Yay! Free your team from expense reports today. Switch your business to Ramp.com.
It's funny. I've been kicking around who I think the best captain is for 37, and maybe it is actually just Ollie Watkins, right? I mean, because who are the competitors? Are Mo Salah, who is effectively stopped playing this season. I mean, he's ready for the summer. Clearly,
he's trying to do his little take-ons and whatnot.
Sure, but his heart's not in it. It's like for him, he's like.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I just think if his heart is in it, he'd be doing better. I don't know. He's been kind of anonymous. I mean, I don't know. Like he plays hard always, but like I just don't think he's not in a great form. We can say that much at least, right?
Fair. Agreed.
And this Brighton team is just so unpredictable. I mean, who knows what version you might get with them. And so I think in the Man City, I'd sort of stay away from for the captaincy just because of the. I mean, I guess you could probably go with Gvardiol because it's hard for me to imagine him not playing. But then it's like Bournemouth could score. I don't know. Like, it's like I don't love captaining Gvardiol for that match. And
say it right now. Bournemouth score in this match. I
think so. I think I could see this match being like 1-1 or maybe 2-1 City or something like that. And so then you have you could just go for Mbomo again, Mr. High floor himself, Brentford hosts Fulham. At the moment, my captain 7
points. Here you go.
At the moment, my captaincy is actually on Jared Bowen because he has been fantastic. I think I pulled this before 3 goals and 2 assists in the last 4 matches from him. So 5 attacking returns in the last 4 from Bowen.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, it took a nice goal. It was a nice goal in general. I don't know if you caught that goal, but it was like a nice little counter attack. I shouldn't even say counter attacking because they just beat. It was Ugarte who got beat on the ball and
a worthless player.
Yeah, and then it was just a really nice squared pass from Wan-Bissaka, who's had an excellent season. He really has. So a nice win for them. I mean, you can say what you want about Man United being on the or like not really caring about this match ahead of the Europa League or maybe hangover from the second leg of their Europa League match or whatever, but it's still a good win for West Ham going to next season. I think the 2-0 away win, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like the battle of who could care less. West Ham has been awful this season.
You got to understand the problem right now is I'm trying to talk about the matches this weekend, and every single time I do it, you're pouring cold water over it. It's very hard. It's hard to draw conclusions from.
Point counterpoint.
All right.
I think where we totally agree is that Jared Bowen is everything for West Ham, is funneling through him, and
right.
I think I am trying to diagnose certain problems with my fantasy season right now, looking ahead to next season, and aggression is something that I can address. And Jared Bowen
can you, though? I'm not sure you can. I mean, we're
something I need to. Can I or not is a question, but it's something that needs to be addressed. And I think Jared Bowen is exactly that. And this is advice that I will, leave everybody with, is like, you just have to check your reads on certain teams and players at the door when you start playing fantasy. Because it doesn't matter. Like this is not a which teams and players are good sort of a game.
Yeah. I feel like I bailed on Palace too soon. A couple of weeks ago.
That's ruined my game week.
Yeah, I know the second Eze goal, and it was like it shouldn't even been his goal. It was like it took too long, and then he ran on for the second one. But I mean, obviously, amazing week, and then Munoz as well picked up an 11-pointer, and so he's actually a player I'm looking at for 37. Palace host Wolves again. It's a little bit like the Man City match where you're like, I mean, it's hard for me to imagine Munoz not starting that match, right? But you just don't know what the FA Cup match is going to look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of it's a tricky one. But
just for clarity, the FA Cup match happens Saturday.
And
then
Sunday?
Palace and City have their matches. Palace v Wolves, City v Bournemouth, both home matches on Tuesday. So it's Saturday, and then they have rest on Sunday and Monday.
Then they rest like as the Lord intended. They rest on Sunday.
Yeah, any way you slice it, you win, you get blitzed at at the local bar. You go do karaoke at the neighborhood place.
Yeah,
you lose. You go get drunk in the basement of your friend's house, or something like that.
I think that's right because because the fact that it's a home match for Palace makes a big difference. I think, which is basically like you said, if they win, then awesome. Final home match of the season is like the conquering FA Cup champions, right? Like get to come home and play the final match at Selhurst Park for the season. If they lose, then it's kind of like, you know what? We've had a great, second half of the season. It's been awesome. Let's leave on a high note, right? There's kind of there's no narrative to me where outside of him actually getting injured, right? Where it like doesn't make sense for them to start a pretty strong squad for this match. So I think the thing with Man City is just that KDB is old, right? I mean, old in fantasy sense. He's younger than me, right? But he's old in the fantasy sense. And if he plays the full match in the FA Cup, I would worry a little bit about whether he starts.
What makes most sense to you? Just like in a grand send-off sort of scenario. And I take everything you're saying about the FA Cup in context, because what would be most important to De Bruyne is he gets to bring City another trophy before he leaves. Right. That would be highest on his priority list. The other would be last home match at the Etihad. So take any scenario at the FA Cup at Wembley. Is it better for De Bruyne to start at the Etihad against Bournemouth and then get subbed off at the 65th minute? Or does he come on at the 65th minute? And
in the FA Cup?
No. In the Premier League.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, you have to think, like, I mean, in a big picture sense, winning the cup is obviously more important.
This is exactly what I've just said.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just trying to game out like the scenario specifically for the City Bournemouth.
Yeah, match. And I just think it's more complicated in general because you just really can't figure out Pep, right? I mean, it's a 0-0 match with Southampton. The whole time I'm thinking, all right, maybe Marmoush is going to come on at halftime, 50th minute, 60th minute, 70th minute, 80th minute. But finally, it was like the 87th. 87th minute of a 0-0 draw. And then finally he was like, all right, let's, and then he like had a couple big chances, like with 5 minutes to go. It was,
I just think with KDB, this feels like the rare situation in which De Bruyne might get to do what he wants to do.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think he probably, yes, I think he probably starts. Do I want to burn 4 to bank on that?
Agreed.
No.
I agree with you. Yeah. I agree.
But I do think he most likely starts. Very likely starts.
Yep.
Yes, I think it's, but on the captaincy front, again, I think Bowen, Watkins, and Bomo would be 3 that stand out to me. I'm less excited about Salah, Palace, and Man City, even though I've kind of gamed out the fact that I think Palace is starting. Still, I don't really want to captain a Palace player before they've even played a match, right? And then you're in that 50-50 zone, right? Where like, when somebody's got the 75% knock, right? It's just a irritating spot to be in for 5 days, considering these games don't get played until Tuesday.
Yeah, this is the most infuriating thing about the Spurs match is that we were all meant to be able to, as Palace asset owners, just write it off. And then we don't have to deal with this whole conundrum of Palace. And what happened was against Spurs is Palace just proved, hey, we're like one of the best.
We're playing great right now. Yeah, we're just going to keep doing it. Yeah,
and all of our fantasy assets are eminently affordable.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
As a like an injury risk for 5 consecutive years. Now we're just going to play in the full 90 in this road match ahead of the FA Cup final. Like, we do not care, and it worked.
Annoying.
So credit.
It's very annoying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had 3 of them. I mean, Mateta is the only one that I guess I got away with, but man, Munoz and Eze were killers. So. Are there any captain options I'm missing though from this list?
I don't think so. No, I mean, in Brentford, a lot of people will be heavy on Brentford. And I think it's a very interesting West London derby with Brentford hosting Fulham, and Fulham couldn't be like in more lackadaisical form. I think when you talk about everyone being on the beach, Fulham are toast, like mentally, physically gone. And I do think Brentford could put 2-3 goals past them. That said, it's just too contentious of a match. You're looking for easy narratives in game week 37.
You were talking about the Champions League with Fulham like a month ago. That's crazy.
Sure. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Well, we were talking about it. I mean, I can't remember who. I think you were the one who thought they had a chance. I think
maybe.
Who
could remember? If only tape existed.
Yeah, exactly. They've all been destroyed. The Nixon tapes. Okay, let me just show you my team. I know people listening can't see it, but just so you can look at it and we can talk about it together. So the O'Brien injury is a real irritating one because
What's the injury? Is he done for the season?
No, it's like a knee injury that happened late on Friday. Classic, wonderful fantasy injury. It's hugely irritating. And so anyway, because I would love to have him for the Southampton match, of course. But as it is, I think the sensible move would, I have enough money, I could just go O'Brien to Munoz, and that would keep things very simple. And then have a squad that I basically like going into this weekend. The more aggressive moves would involve Marmoush to Watkins, possibly Cunha to Watkins, although I guess I'm maybe less excited about that. Let me remember who. And Wolves have Brentford at home for their final home match of the season. I mean, it's not a terrible fixture. So if I was going to move anybody, it would be probably Marmoush of my front 3. Marmoush, Cunha, and Isak. And then midfield is kind of fine. Salah, I think I'm just going to write it out just because his ceiling is still so high, right? It's like I don't have a strong desire to move him to KDB or something.
No, there's no reason to move him. I mean, he's really been he's been totally absent fantasy wise the last few weeks. But I think game week 38 is the reason you keep him. And Liverpool play at Anfield in game week 38, bit of a party match. Let's see, who do they play in 38? It's just like an inconsequential opposition. It's Crystal Palace, who could be
who knows?
The form team, as we've said.
Yeah, exactly.
but they could be a trophy holding high on their own supply team. You just don't know.
Yeah,
I think. Yep. But point is, I do think Salah remains kind of a captaincy option, and I think because his ceiling is high. If you're chasing in certain leagues, Salah captaincy is like a low risk, high ceiling vibe in the last game week of the season.
I think that's true. Yeah, I think I know I'm sort of like I've just been slowly crawling upwards. I'm at 338 now, so with 2 weeks to go, I'm like maybe I can crack like 250, which would be like reasonable. Or I mean, I don't know if it's reasonable, but that would be like it's a good goal to shoot for. And if so, it's a good question about like what the most high ceiling captain picks are the last 2 weeks of the season. I mean, I actually think Bowen is a fairly high ceiling pick. I mean, the Forest, the problem with Forest is like, I don't really know what we're getting with them. You know, it's like,
are they just bad now, or are they just kind of, this was the most insane scene I've seen in a long time, was the owner of Forest coming out on the pitch and basically confronting Espirito Santo after.
I didn't see this.
It was bananas. He basically came out. The weirdest thing is like, here's a really rich fat guy who owns a Premier League club, and he's wearing this like terrible fitting t-shirt, and he's got his phone, and connected to his phone is wired headphones. And I'm like, you're a very powerful person, and you have wired headphones. This is not the look I'm going for. Yeah. But as soon as the final whistle blew, he clearly was like, I have to go make a scene in front of the whole world. It was awful.
And then it's like, is that just because like there's so much money in the Champions League, right? It's like also Espirito Santos, like it was crazy that he got this far. I mean, he's like,
sure,
he kind of got found out.
He should be getting fruit baskets every week from the owner for how much money they're going to make from being in Europe, which they will be. Maybe they won't be in the Champions League, but this owner needs to take a hike like little loser.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe they can right the ship a little bit, but I usually think it's kind of a tough match for them now. Like, West Ham are kind of playing okay now. It's like the narrative you were trying to talk about there about the Bowen narrative is like our Forest just cooked at this point. And if that's the case, then Bowen, is a really good captaincy option. Yeah. So Bowen, I think, I think Mbomo is also a solid pick. I'm actually going to tinker with my squad a little bit. I have Semenyo and Jacob Murphy, and I was debating between the two. I think I'm going to start Semenyo over Murphy. I'm not even sure that's the right pick. I don't even know anymore. Semenyo always looks good. Every time you watch him play, you're like,
so does Murphy.
Great. Yeah, that's true. Murphy does look good too. Got an assist today. I don't know. Tricky one. It's always tricky with those like those 6 million midfielders though.
Oh yeah, I feel like I get it wrong every week. I mean, Alenga came through for me with 7 points this game week, but I still managed to bench Murphy and start Mamouche, and I think that's been it's the problem with the mid-price rotation this season.
Yeah. Did you end up like, I know you were waiting for some leaks. Did you wait until the last minute on Saturday?
Yeah, what was kind of funny about that is I did wake up, checked out the City leaks, and I had talked to our Patreon supporters, and I was like, I'm pretty sure if we get the leak and De Bruyne is starting, I will captain him. I saw it, and then I just second guessed it, and I thought, you know what? I don't want this. I want to captain Mbomo.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think, obviously it worked out. I mean, not like in a massive way,
and so that was the concern. The concern with KDB captaincy is I haven't forgotten what City have been all season. Yep. They have this potential to be totally flat attacking wise, regardless of the opponent, and I don't know. You just get this feeling that City aren't going to come through for you. And I mean, I had, De Bruyne blocked me from, in a way, like I blocked myself from starting my better players like Jacob Murphy. But, let's see. I would love it if De Bruyne scores a hat trick in his final home match at the Etihad and all is forgiven and we were all on him for the right reasons in fantasy. That should be the happy ending.
Yeah, let's see. It's going to be a very big Tuesday next week. I'll say that much. So let's see. Is there what else do I want to note here? I mean, so I think the big issue is really this Europa League final falling in between game weeks 37 and 38. And so if you look at the fixtures that the teams that Man United and Spurs are playing over the next 2 weeks, it's Villa away and Brighton at home. So Villa away, I think, is now a prime fixture. I know we talked about this a little bit earlier with Watkins, but I think it's a great place to look for transfers. It's a tricky place in some ways because there has been a fair amount of rotation among. But I don't know, Morgan Rogers is still there, getting done every week. Brandon, it's
Morgan Rogers has to be like the advice at the end of the season is. If you find somebody who's like that, who's that cheap, and will start that, it doesn't matter how much they blank, you will rise with this fantasy asset.
Yeah. And then Man United play away to Chelsea, so I guess there's some appeal there if you wanted to have a Chelsea player, which I don't. I don't even know who I would want at this point. I mean, maybe a defender, I guess.
And Nico Jackson is out for the rest of the season,
exactly.
And that's totally kind of weird and
two crazy years from him. Yeah, we've been there's some talent there, but after the end of this, you're just maybe you should just leave. It's
classic high school coach situation of I tried to get the best out of him. Ultimately.
Yeah,
I'm not dealing with this.
I know he's not as talented as him, but it's like the Paul Pogba thing, where at some point you're all right, it's
just go.
Just go. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I want that is kind of like idiots versus idiots. The Manchester United v Chelsea match, and who will win. There.
And 38, it's harder to say. I think we'll obviously have an opportunity to. Well, will we? I guess we kind of won't really, because, we will for our transfers. We won't for this podcast, unfortunately. When we do next week's pod, it'll be before the Europa League final. But our final Patreon podcast, Brandon, will be able to, just the thought of us having to dig deep into the Europa League final and what it means only further clarifies why I'm ready for a break.
Tell with the game winner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tell. So okay, let's see here. I think our long goodbye at the beginning threw me off our stride here a little bit.
Where do we need to get here?
Let's just get to transfer options. I talked about mine a little bit already. Why don't you talk through your transfer decisions? Maybe you can share your squad with me, and we can discuss it, and then maybe we'll just wrap it up.
Sure, let's wrap it up. So I'll put my team on the screen here. Am I just sharing the running order for?
Yeah, you are. I like that. It's people got to see an inside peek at the Always Cheating running order.
That's fantastic. All right, here, let's see.
It's funny going in other pods and seeing their running orders because ultimately it can't be radically different, right? No. It's more about whether you do screenshots versus whether you copy and reformat it, little things like that.
So this is my squad for game week 37, and I've just been the triple Arsenal defense had a brief moment in which Kivior scored a goal and everything was right in the world.
Yeah.
Other than that, triple Arsenal defense has been poor and not great fantasy wise, and yet here I am, home Newcastle, starting Saliba and Raya. I've got Nick Pope on the bench.
Yep.
I think that's tricky, but I cannot justify making a transfer there. The midfield would be Salah, De Bruyne, and Bomo, and Alenga. And Alenga, to me, has been, while Gibbs White has his moments, Alenga has been the most consistently good attacking player for Forest, and I'm fine keeping him. And I think this is a very interesting match, contra to the Hope Bowen discussion.
Yep.
Alenga will have a lot of wind behind him to try to get some fantasy returns in that matching game week 37. So up front, my decision here is I'm thinking of Isak out for Ollie Watkins as an upside opportunity. I would rather it be Marmouche, but I can't do that without taking a hit, which I'm not super interested in doing. And Isak has, Newcastle have been in red hot form in the league, but Isak has been not a part of that at all. And I do think that feels very uncomfortable as a fantasy manager, where you're like, am I going to remove one of the key assets for a form team at the top of the table, just on a hunch and an upside? He could kill me. And that's the concern with Isak out. But right now, the way it looks based on form is that Watkins would be the better asset to have in his place.
Yeah, or Marmouche. I think one of the.
But as I say, I can't do a straight swap there.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Of course. Sorry. So I mean, your squad actually looks quite good in general. I think your back line is I think somewhat enviable with Munoz and Guardiola and even Saliba. I mean, sure, like Newcastle might score, but who's getting clean sheets right now anyway, Brandon? They're hard to come by.
Yeah, I don't know. What did you make of the Arsenal performance against Liverpool? They just felt I got the sense that Arsenal are just kind of done season.
I'm kind of irritated with that. My feeling about Arsenal right now is just one of irritation. It's very Arteta driven, and I just have to kind of get over it because everything he's done the last month has driven me crazy, and I just find myself sort of. It's not that I even necessarily think he's a bad manager. I think he might be kind of dumb, just. I don't know.
He's so high in his own supply, I think. And he's so caught up in the whole
puffed up or something. Maybe dumb isn't quite the right word, but there's just something about the way he talk. I just I'm sort of sick of him, and and I think that feeling is confused the whole squad. I'm just sort of irritated at the club in general for being in a position where they I don't know. They really have no forwards, and
their squad building in the last 2 seasons has been pretty poor.
And I mean, they didn't know. I mean, Gabriel Jesus, a player has been heavily injured his entire career. Exactly. Also a player they kind of know at this point, he can't score goals. This is the big problem with him. And then it's Kai Havertz as an out of position, forward is going to solve everything. And he had some moments this season for sure, but
it wasn't a plan. Even when he was fully healthy, it wasn't a plan.
Yeah. And even if you're thinking about strikers as a kind of outdated, idea. Okay, well, fine. I'm not seeing a ton of wing talent either. I mean, Marino has actually been quite good. I mean, I realized he got red carded today, but it was after scoring, but Marino has had some moments. I guess Trossard has been okay, in the last few weeks, but it just feels like there's not enough there. They don't, it's I think, their midfield and their defense is very solid. And then everything up front is a little stiff, a little,
Moreno is emblematic of the transfer policy of you definitely didn't sign Moreno to do this job.
Right.
And here he is doing it, which tells me you don't know what you're doing.
It's it's all feels so desperate, and it feels like it doesn't need to feel this desperate. Say whatever you want about Newcastle. It's they've been much more kind of structured. I don't know.
Their squad is great.
Yeah. It's exactly. It's a little more patient, or I don't know. I guess last year they had a lot of injuries as well, and maybe some of the similar chaos. But I don't know. It's a club of Arsenal's at their level. Just shouldn't be in a position where there's no depth up front.
Agreed. Totally agree. So that Arsenal thing aside is. Ultimately, game week 37 boils down to, can you get Ollie Watkins in gracefully or not? And I am at 6s and 7s thinking getting rid of Isak is the only way I can do it. So I feel like I have 2 options. I move Isak to Watkins for the upside, or I roll and basically just go for broke.
38.
In 38, just try to do something. So I'm currently I dropped 35,000 spots in game week 36. I'm around 138K right now. If I want to get into the top 100K, I need a moment, like one singular moment in the next 2 game weeks. I think will push me.
Well, that means that makes me think you should do the Isak move. Right?
I agree. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
for sure.
without you're right. Because without a move like that, you're going to cruise into 118K, right, to end the season. Yeah,
totally. So, and I my heart goes out to all the managers out there right now who are kind of thinking like, I just haven't been able to move.
I know
the last couple of months, and what is it going to take? And the problem is, what it's going to take is you basically probably committing yourself to a top 300K finish.
Yeah, exactly.
For the opportunity to be top 75K.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even quite a Hail Mary pass, but it's like the let's call it a 30-yard strike. You know, it's a little You're in the Julio Enciso zone, Brandon. You know,
God help me.
He takes about 8 of those a game, and it's like maybe one goes in every 5 matches, but when it does,
all right. But when it does, it's a miracle.
Exactly. It's the new Andros Townsend. All right. Well, that is that for this week's pod. Sorry for people who. Well, thank you for everyone who's been listening for a long time or just joined us this year. But especially people who've been with us for like 10 years. It's been this podcast has been a huge part of my identity, and maybe I don't know if it's a weird thing to say or not, but it certainly has been. And it's after 10 years, it's all like this like a community of people and friends and people I know in Brooklyn, and people I know in England and all of them. Paul Parsons, right? Every time he visits from Australia, right? There's like all sorts of different connections. And so thank you so much, everyone who's listened to the podcast, supported us on Patreon. More to come over the next couple of weeks. I was going to say earlier, if anyone has any like memories of the podcast or funny things or things you just remember from past years, let us know. It'd be kind of a fun thing for us to share. And
we're here to be showered with praise for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, if anyone's still listening, the problem with ending this after 37 weeks, is we're down to the most hardcore manager. Like, can you just talk about captain picks, please? But yeah. Thank you to everyone who supported the podcast. Brennan, do you want to thank our producer?
Oh, yeah. And the biggest hardcore thanks to our big-time producer, patrons, Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, Dave Wagner, Lodahl, our buddy Chris Howell, Andy Penn, Nick Wright, Lazarus Llanos, Jesse Halstead, Brian Chin, Babas Kuhn, Blair Jacobs, Brian Chin, congratulations on the birth of your child, by the way. Babas Kuhn, yes. Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock, Dan Parsons, Terrence O'Donnell, Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner, as he does it, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Craig Jackson, Caleb Robbie, Brian Clark, Thomas Tisloff, Fro Jacobson, Gareth H., Shalin F. Kadaki, Arishi Nigam, Noah and Louise, Travis Grant, Linus Vennerstrom, Matthew Skinner, Ben Coombs, Eric Kite, Rune Sandberg, the 3 Jims, James Murray Wood, James C., James Holland, Scully, Craig at Total Mass Tutoring, Francis Mann. Catch them while they're hot, while you still can. Follow us on social media. Follow
you don't have to say it. You don't
like,
have to say
subscribe,
it. Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Listen, we're talking about legacy here.
That's
Josh.
true. That is true. Yeah, that's true. Do the job until the very end.
If you still want a t-shirt or a pint glass or whatever, we will. Trust me, I'll do it. I will take the shop down. Buy your Always Cheating merch before it's gone.
That's true. Yeah, it's all going to go away. It's gonna be like we were never there. It's like it's
we can't afford another year's worth of Squarespace subscriber.
Well, it's too expensive. Honestly, it's pointless. I mean, yeah. But anyway, yeah. But thank you to everyone for listening, and we'll be back next week. 2 more pods to go. Bye.
And we're back, folks. It looks like Jim from sales just got in from his client lunch, and he's got receipts.
His next meeting is in 2 minutes. The team is asking, can he get through his expenses in that time?
He's going for it. Is that his phone? He's snapping a pic. He's texting Ramp.
Jim is fast, but this is unheard of.
That's it. He's done it. It's unbelievable.
On Ramp, expenses are faster than ever. Just submit them with a text. Switch your business to Ramp.com.